Oh, hey, didn't see you there. Kind of rude for you to pop in without mentioning anything, but this is perfect timing. I was just listening to my favorite synth power metal album about a band of space pirates playing rock music throughout the entire cosmos when I was thinking, I really hate mock drafts. Now, that's kind of disingenuous because I don't want to say I hate mock drafts outright, and this the title of this video is probably a little bit misleading, clickbait and such. Had to get you guys in with the good title. But really, I just hate predictive mock drafts, and it's been kind of bothering me for a little bit now, and especially with Daniel Jeremiah's 2.0 mock draft coming out recently, I thought this was a good time to talk about it. I was engaging with an acquaintance of mine on Twitter who posted a predictive mock draft of their own a couple weeks back, and I really had the idea to make this video, and I kind of forgot about it until today. And it just brought up a bunch of memories of why I was kind of just mad in general about predictive mock drafts existing. And I kind of got into a spat with him a little bit on Twitter. Nothing, too aggressive or heinous or anything like that. It was more just wanting to know, why do people enjoy making/reading predictive mock drafts from people who aren't like Daniel Jeremiah? Because the whole point of predictive mock drafts is that you're going to be trying to predict what the teams are going to be doing based on how they feel and their team needs and stuff, and what you're hearing from the rumors. And like Daniel Jeremiah is plugged into all these different like league contacts and stuff that are going to be telling him what they're hearing from teams, what they're going to be planning on doing, and how they view certain players, which is fine for him because he has those resources. But then if someone like my acquaintance, was doing this predictive mock draft, well, you're just a random dude that doesn't have any context in the NFL. How do you know what these teams like? And besides just hearing or reading what other people who do predictive mock drafts do, and like getting the buzz from them where certain guys are gonna maybe go and how teams are viewing them, what teams like who and stuff like that, and what teams are looking to do. Like I'm not an insider at all. I love writing mock drafts, but I'm not an insider at all, so I'm not going to act like one. And let me just throw you back because I don't want to come off as kind of callous and hard when it comes to predictive mock drafts and people who enjoy them, because I did at one time enjoy predictive mock drafts. Back in 2014 when I started getting into draft content, it was for two reasons. One, Cardale Jones, which I've explained previously, it's kind of weird, and two, reading mock drafts, because the Bills sucked, and I always just looked forward to seeing who they draft, specifically in 2014 when I was hoping they would draft Cardale Jones, because I thought he was going to be a good quarterback, because he was 6'5", built like a brick shithouse, and won a national championship. Then proceeded to not watch any Ohio State games thereon. But then that boost of dopamine when they drafted in the fourth round after pining for him all offseason was what really sparked me into getting into this. And in that time, I kept reading mock drafts to see if they were going to give Cardale Jones to the Bills in the first round, and then he kept not showing up. I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. Regardless, I was really into reading predictive mock drafts, and then from 2014 to like 2018, when I was still like doing stuff, I discovered the Draft Network and their mock draft machine and their podcast, which I'm still into to this day. It was all a bunch of stuff I would do and make predictive mock drafts, because I would think like, oh, this player would be fun on this team, and this is what they're saying about this player, and he's projected to go top 5, so we're going to give him this team in the top 5 because I think they're going to need this player, or their scheme will be fun with this. He played next to that guy. So I was into the business of making predictive mock drafts and reading predictive mock drafts, and that is part of the like fun of a predictive mock draft nowadays, especially when you read them from like a guy like Daniel Jeremiah, who has like actual legitimate contacts in the NFL with each team. You can read like, oh, if this is what they're planning on going to, then you can derive things like, oh, this is where they're going to go to with free agency. You can imagine if this is who they're actually looking after the draft at the spot, oh, this guy would be cool next to this guy, and it makes it a little bit more realistic as to like, oh, if they draft this guy, which this NFL insider is telling me that they might be, let me see how that would fit and how I'd like that fit when it comes to that. But that's about the extent of like the discussion you can have. Whereas with what I would do mock drafts, which is the title of it, what I would do mock drafts, I feel are just a lot more creative and opinion-based and able to have discussions about it. And it kind of ties that in with why I started like this YouTube channel in the first place, which was I liked, after I got on my predictive mock draft phase, it was because I liked watching these players and watching the film I could get my hands on and developing my own opinions on players, because the consensus isn't always right. Whenever you look at these top 32 draft boards, those aren't always the top 32 best players to come out of the draft. So it was always fun to watch guys and get my own opinions on them, because, hey, maybe I'm going to be higher on some guys than the consensus is, and that guy's going to end up being better than what the consensus said, but I had him right, or vice versa, which is usually what happens is as I got through my process of being a rookie, I got a lot of things wrong. I got some other things right that kept me going. But even then, when I was making those mock drafts based on my own opinion, I could then argue or debate with somebody or share my opinion based on like my identified team needs and looking at the contracts and stuff and saying they could draft this guy to replace this dude's contract, and this is why I have him drafting this guy over the consensus this guy at the position because I liked this guy's film better or I liked his film better for their system. So there's a lot of different avenues you can give your opinion on when it comes to what I would do mock drafts, including. And the biggest point is like the players. Like if I went to that acquaintance of mine on Twitter and I said, why do you have Keon Coleman at 22 over a guy like Troy Franklin or Xavier Legette? Oh, because teams are going to really like teams really like Keon Coleman, or they're rumored to really like Keon Coleman. You're not really telling me anything about your opinion of the player itself in Keon Coleman. You're telling me that you heard through articles you read that teams like Keon Coleman, or through people you may know that teams like Keon Coleman. That's not really indicative of a good conversation we could have where we can go back and forth talking about a player. I was just on the phone texting one of my friends who also does draft stuff about Cooper DeJean and how I think he's more, personally, I like him better as a man corner, whereas he wants to transition him to safety, have him in a slot or more of a slot heavy role. And we had a discussion based on the film, based on the type of player he is, the athletic profile, that was really fascinating and fun. And if you were to draft him to mock him to a team that runs more man-heavy stuff or more zone-heavy stuff, then you can talk about that and explain why you like him at this point or why you don't like him at this spot, how he'd fit, and things like that. So I really like the debate and opinion that comes along with analyzing these different prospects, and that's, again, why I started the YouTube channel, to have somewhere to dump my opinions out to, and hopefully someone would listen, instead of just writing it out on documents and no one ever seeing it ever. So might as well monetize it. So, yeah, I just never really got the appeal of predictive mock drafts once I've moved past this step in my life where it was just kind of watch highlights, think about players that are on this roster already and play with them. It really just became more of a developed thing. I'm not saying people who enjoy predictive mock drafts, who enjoy writing them, are dumb and are lower than I am and haven't figured that out yet. No, everyone can enjoy what they want to enjoy. It just, this is what me, as someone who likes to give my opinion, who likes to be right, who likes to argue and debate with people, this is my opinion on what those kind of mock drafts are and how predictive ones kind of just take away, and they only give you one angle to attack a debate with it. Whereas what I would do mock drafts, which I prefer doing, all the mock drafts you see on my account, besides like the day of or the day before draft ones when it's kind of like a betting thing that I do, will be what I would do instead of predictive, because I will just be able to, one, explain why I wanted it and explain how I like this player over other players, why I like this player at this position in the draft. So that is kind of the whole thesis of this video. I wanted to rant because, like I said, I was just randomly thinking about it, having read Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft and disagreed with the order in which he had players going. But again, it's based on what he has heard in the NFL, not what his personal opinions on these players are, even though he does sprinkle that in with his analysis and his little blurbs beneath each pick. So I do respect Daniel Jeremiah for doing that. It just confuses me when people who don't have those NFL inside connections do it, and they prefer to do the predictive ones as opposed to what I would do, because, I don't know, it just makes it so that, like, not as fun reading for me. I can't really debate you over your picks. It's because you're basically coming down to, that's what I think they're going to do, as opposed to, this is what I would do if I was their position. So that's my rant and opinion on mock drafts. Sorry if anyone was offended or anything because they like predictive mock drafts. I still enjoy reading predictive mock drafts. I read Daniel Jeremiah's and I liked seeing different players getting plugged in to different teams. And if that's the most likely scenario, then it's able for me to actually picture it as opposed to doing a bunch of different theoreticals of my own. So there is some fun to go along with that. I just think overall what I would do are a bit more indicative of, inducive to conversation and debate, which is what I'm really in this whole sphere for when it comes to draft content. So yeah, thanks for listening to my rant here, and I have a lot more stuff coming out. I just wanted to put something out right now while I'm working on a new top 10 video when it comes to the Combine, as well as doing my own special Combine video, and a bunch of other stuff when it comes to bringing the podcast back to talk about draft prospects individually, doing film breakdowns. I got a bunch of stuff planned. I know I say that every video, and sometimes I go months without posting, but this time, especially with the draft season ramping up, I definitely have it. So stay tuned, and I'll see you guys in the next one.